May 17th, 1944, Burma. Lieutenant Phil Adair, commanding officer of the Burma Banshees squadron, sits in the cockpit of his fighter. His aircraft, along with 3 others, bears the squadron's signature, menacing skull designs with razor-sharp teeth screaming across the fuselage. Their objective today? Strike Japanese positions on the ground. Adair firmly grasps the controls, banking his aircraft downward. Below him stretches an endless carpet of jungle vegetation, thick, impenetrable, alive with danger. Through the murky atmosphere, he catches glimpses of the battle unfolding. Muzzle flashes, detonations, chaos puncturing the emerald wilderness. Down there, Chinese troops trained by American advisors are locked in brutal combat with Japanese forces. Perspiration soaks through Adair's flight suit as the Banshees align themselves for the attack run. The formation is textbook. Adair leads from the front, while the less seasoned aviators follow his trajectory. Japanese troops on the ground raise their hands to block the blinding sunlight, desperately trying to locate the source of the approaching engine roar. Then they see them. Those terrifying skull-faced warbirds diving from above. Adair releases his ordnance. The earth convulses beneath the enemy soldiers as explosions ripple across their position in a devastating wave of fire and destruction. As Adair pulls back on the stick, climbing at approximately 45 degrees, something catches his attention in the sky above. Japanese aircraft. But that's not all. His wingman is just beginning his bombing approach. Here's what Adair himself recalled about those next critical moments. 3 complete flights of Zeros. I'm talking about more than 15 aircraft. And they had us completely boxed in. They'd already begun their attack dive on our position. They weren't focused on me initially. Their sights were set on my wingman and the 2 other pilots in my flight. So I immediately got on the radio and shouted, "Enemy fighters! 11 o'clock high." Adair has accumulated considerable combat experience, but his wingman O'Connor, whom Adair fondly nicknamed Little Okie, hasn't logged nearly as many flight hours. I got on the horn with him immediately and said, "Little Okie, you need to jettison those external tanks and dump your bombs right now. Then execute a hard right turn straight into that cloud cover to break contact with those Zeros." O'Connor immediately releases his bomb load, but there's a problem. His external fuel tank refuses to detach. 4 enemy fighters are already screaming toward his position. He throws his aircraft into an aggressive, evasive turn, trying to shake the pursuing Japanese pilots. Adair watches helplessly as all 5 aircraft, 1 P-40 and 4 Zeros, vanish into a dense cloud formation. The remaining Japanese fighters spread out across the sky, acquiring targeting solutions on the surviving American aircraft. But Adair is already reacting, pushing his throttle forward and diving into the same cloud bank, following O'Connor's flight path. When he bursts through the opposite side into clear air, there's no trace of Little Okie anywhere. Adair describes what he encountered. As I emerged into the clearing, I was frantically scanning for any sign of our P-40s, but came up empty. Instead, what I did spot was a formation of 4 Zeros on the far side of this open airspace, and they were vectoring directly toward my position, so I turned to meet them head-on. Adair centers the lead fighter in his gun sight, waits for the perfect moment, then squeezes the trigger. Tracer rounds arc through the sky toward the Japanese formation, but before his rounds reach effective range, the enemy fighters break away. Adair immediately dives back into the cloud cover to avoid further engagement. But when he emerges once more into open sky, the situation hasn't improved. Japanese fighters are still everywhere. Another quartet of aircraft materializes in his field of view. I executed the same maneuver with this group. I pointed my nose directly at them. The first three pilots all broke hard to the left, well before reaching engagement range. But the fourth pilot, he didn't follow his flight. He kept his course straight at me. So I held my fire until I was absolutely certain he'd entered my effective range. And the instant I pressed the trigger, his aircraft simply came apart in midair. I must have scored hits right through his center mass because the plane literally disintegrated into pieces. With one confirmed kill, Adair rapidly maneuvers back toward the protective cover of the clouds. I caught sight of another aircraft that had obviously spotted me and was turning to intercept, so I turned to face him head-on. He maintained his approach, getting closer and closer. When his aircraft started looking considerably large in my gun sight, I calculated, all right, he's definitely within effective range now. So I pressed the trigger and opened fire on him, while he simultaneously opened fire on me. I couldn't visually track his rounds, but I understood exactly what he was doing. I could see his tracers streaking past. Then suddenly, his canopy filled up my entire gun sight, and I realized he was dangerously close. He passed directly over the top of my aircraft, close enough that I could both hear and physically feel this tremendous whomp as his aircraft roared past. As he overshot my position, I rolled inverted and started descending to a lower altitude. While I was upside down, I spotted a zero painted in this brilliant glossy green on its upper surfaces, shining like it had just been polished. Wow, that's actually impressive. Then, after that zero passed, I noticed another one approaching from the opposite direction, positioned lower than my current altitude. Using his superior altitude to advantage, Adair rotates his aircraft and expertly positions himself behind the Japanese fighter. The Japanese Hayabusa, nicknamed Peregrine Falcon, drifts into Adair's targeting reticle, and Adair delivers a perfect deflection shot. The wing structure tears away completely, and the fuselage tumbles end over end toward the rocky terrain far below. So at that point, I knew with certainty that I'd downed 2 aircraft there. I'd also engaged several others, but had absolutely no idea whether I'd scored any hits on them or not. Adair now finds himself completely alone and exposed in open airspace. By this stage, his aircraft has taken considerable battle damage, and his fuel situation is becoming critical. He needs to return to base immediately. Banking northward toward home, his heart sinks. 5 additional Japanese aircraft appear directly in his path. Outnumbered, without altitude advantage and low on fuel, Adair has only one option: run. The control stick vibrates in Adair's grip as he coaxes his damaged P-40 southward. Oh man, this is bad. The Japanese fighters close the distance rapidly. Their tracer fire begins streaking past his cockpit in lethal patterns. He throws his P-40 into a desperate last-ditch defensive sequence, hauling back on the controls until the entire airframe shakes violently around him. Everything becomes a disorienting whirlwind of aluminum and sky as he twists, climbs, and rolls through 3-dimensional space, frantically attempting to break their target lock. Japanese fighters repeatedly slice through his field of vision from multiple angles, their weapons spitting continuous streams of tracers and hot lead. Then, through all the mayhem and confusion, he identifies something that might represent salvation, though it's wrapped in its own deadly risk. It's an enormous bank of clouds with a massive rock outcropping jutting through the surface like a jagged tooth. Despite the extreme hazard this presents, Adair, outnumbered, shot to pieces, and out of options, evaluates his rapidly diminishing choices and commits to a dive toward the cover below. Through a combination of skill and sheer luck, he manages to penetrate the cloud layer. Somehow, miraculously, he navigates around the rock formation, and when he breaks through the opposite side, he immediately turns northward, back into clear sky. Bamboo 2, respond. O'Connor, are you receiving? I circled the area briefly, attempting to contact my flight members on the radio. Nobody responded. For the first time in my combat career, I thought I'd lost my entire flight and that I was the sole survivor. I didn't feel particularly good about myself in that moment. A hollow emptiness fills him as he turns his battle-scarred fighter toward Nagakuli airfield. He continues scanning the vast sky, searching desperately for any indication his missing pilots survived. Through the atmospheric haze, a familiar silhouette emerges, a red-nosed P-40. Adair's relief is overwhelming. It's O'Connor, struggling across the sky. Adair rapidly closes the distance to assess O'Connor's crippled aircraft. His external belly tank remains stubbornly attached, and the fuselage is riddled with penetrations. A massive, irregular hole marks where a 20-millimeter cannon shell has blasted through the canopy, and O'Connor is slumped forward in the cockpit, his flight suit soaked with blood. Through a crimson haze, O'Connor registers Adair's aircraft approaching, manages to sit upright, and gestures toward his non-functional instruments. However, there's no smoke trailing from the engine, nor any hydraulic fluid streaking across the metal skin. They turn northward together toward Nagaguli, two survivors in an otherwise desolate sky. The radio suddenly crackles to life, and a faint voice penetrates the static. Bamboo Leader, this is Bamboo 3. Are you receiving? It's Tom Rogers. He informs Adair that he's currently orbiting above Sadia in his P-40, too uncertain about his aircraft's condition to attempt a solo landing. Adair glances across at O'Connor's damaged aircraft, calculating that this detour is going to consume precious fuel they can barely afford to burn. But abandoning a fellow pilot isn't an option, and the two Banshees alter course toward Rogers' position. Banking towards Sadia, they locate Rogers' bullet-riddled P-40, its wings and fuselage displaying the same battle scars that mark all three surviving aircraft. As they approach closer, Adair's experienced eye detects the telltale droop of Rogers' landing gear. Both tires are completely deflated. Adair signals his plan. He'll lead them both into the landing pattern, with Oki positioned first since his airspeed indicator is still operational, and Rogers following behind since his flat tires will bring him to a rapid stop on the runway. Guiding both aircraft into their final approach vector, Adair pulls up at the last possible moment and circles overhead, watching with enormous relief as both his friends touch down safely. Only then does he bring his own aircraft in for landing. As his aircraft rolls to a stop, Adair is thrilled to discover that Martinez has already landed and emerged completely unharmed. Rogers is also uninjured, though his aircraft absorbed an astonishing 123 bullet impacts. Adair leaps from his cockpit and sprints toward O'Connor's shattered P-40 to find him in terrible condition. He was severely wounded. He never returned to flying duty, as far as I'm aware. He almost certainly never flew combat again. He survived initially, but passed away several years later from complications related to the wounds on his left side, where that cannon shell detonated and tore away his canopy. Despite O'Connor's grievous injuries, 4 men departed on that mission, and 4 men returned alive to tell their incredible story. That Adair, now there's a real pilot. Have you heard the story about the time he flew inverted to make it back home? Stay tuned and find out.